Our Town Oshawa is funded in part by Unifor. Unifor, a union for everyone. With additional support from the City of Oshawa, prepare to be amazed. Ontario Power Generation. The Regional Municipality of Durham. And contributing sponsors, Ontario Tech University and Trent University Durham GTA. Challenge the way you think. And by the members of WNED-TV. Thank you.
My name is Lisa Terich. I'm the Community Engagement Coordinator at the Oshawa Museum, and with one of our summer students, Lauren, we decided to highlight our museum, the Oshawa Museum. Oshawa Museum is the only museum in the city which looks at telling the entire history of the city. So we look at the earliest Indigenous inhabitants all the way to present day. We do so with 3 historic houses. All 3 are still standing on their original foundations, which means that they are standing where they were built over 150 years ago. They're located in Oshawa's Lakeview Park. They are built really close together, so they're like this little tiny organic village. And today we use these houses as the museum buildings. Guy House is our administrative building. That's where you'll find our offices as well as the archives. We collect Oshawa's history, and we've got just huge holdings from paper documents, land deeds, maps. We have over 10,000 historic photographs of our community. Some are indeed very vintage, but we've also started collecting more recent ones. The Henry House is displayed like a traditional Victorian home, so when you walk inside, you feel like you're walking back into the past.
So welcome to the kitchen. This would have been the biggest room in the house and the center hub of life. What we call our Tackaberry map. It is a map of Canada West because at that
the map is really cool. It's 5 years older than Canada's actually been a country.
And as you can see by the date, is pre-Confederation, coming in 1862.
Robinson House we use for different exhibits. The upper story is completely dedicated to an Indigenous gallery. And then the bottom story is rotating so that we can showcase as much about our community's past as we can. We change our exhibits 2 times a year, and we thought it would be really interesting to get some of the behind the scenes of what happens at the museum. We were able to get some video footage of our curator and our costumer preparing historic dresses for display. The exhibit is called the Vintage Catwalk, and it's an opportunity for us to showcase some of the textiles that we have in our collection. And then we were actually able to showcase the exhibit being opened. We started with a bit of a garden party out in the Henry House Gardens, and then we were able to take all of our guests and bring them over to Robinson House to view the exhibit. We host events year-round. One of the events that we host is yoga in the garden. So we've got this beautiful garden space maintained by a huge cohort of volunteers, largely, and we host yoga out there Friday mornings in the summer. We're open 7 days a week during the summer, 5 days a week for the rest of the year. We showcase our community's history. It's varied, it's diverse, it's flawed in some aspects, but so wonderful in so many others. I think that was probably one of the big reasons why we felt it was important to tell our story, is we're one of those places in the community that we can celebrate Oshawa, and that's what this program really is, a celebration of this community.
My name is Paul Dobbs, and I chose Alexandra Park as my feature for the Our Town story. Covering a park might at first seem like a pretty bland kind of idea, like a park is a park. But when you consider all the lives that travel through it, all the smiles, the giggles, the laughters, the tears from the little knee scrapes and so on, a park really has an incredible life of its own and an incredible history and story of its own. Alexandra Park started to take shape in 1902. group called the Oshawa Athletic Association purchased 6 acres of land to try and encourage people to get involved in athletic elements. A few years just to follow that, the Town of Oshawa then set up a Board of Parks group to look for a location to host the upcoming Southern Ontario Agricultural Fair. So they actually purchased 19 acres next to the original 6 and combined it to become Alexandra Park. And the name comes from Queen Alexandra, who was the wife of King Edward VII. The park then became an important host for a number of events in years to follow. Company picnics, the MCLAUGHLIN carriage works, for example, there's an image of a whole group of them there celebrating a picnic day in the park, and they're all posing together. It's amazing to stand in that space today and think about, at one time, there was this giant grandstand where there was people jumping up to their feet to cheer on their horse as they raced towards the finish line. There's one photo that I came across that was really interesting. It's the 116th Battalion parading through the park. And in the background, it's from 1911, you see the newly built Oshawa Hospital on the south side of the park. 2-story brick building, 16 beds at the time. And then just to the left of that, you see the archway that's the entrance to the park. That archway is still there today. And considering the size of it and how old it is, it's pretty amazing that it survived in full size all these years, all these decades. There is a very large oval walking trail. You see lots of people walking that trail, bringing their dogs along and just enjoying a day in the park to be able to get their steps in for their exercise. There was a soccer game going on for 2 young women's teams. There was 3 different baseball games going on. There's a father playing catch with his son. And yet, it has its very quiet times too. You go there early in the morning, and there's very few people there. It's very, very quiet, but you hear the birds chirping, you see little squirrels running around. I feel it was important to highlight Alexandra as one of our town stories because it was the kind of space that is a hidden gem in our city. It's been there for over 100 years. It's well protected and well maintained. It's well used, but there's still a lot of people who are probably not aware of it. And I think that's something that people are missing out on a lot today in our busy lives. When we get home and we kind of just veg out on the couch and pull out our phones and so on, to remember that there's a big, beautiful space like this that you can easily drive to and come and take a look and walk around. To me, that's always a fascinating thing of standing in a place and thinking, what came before me? How did this get to be where it is now? Is there some piece I can contribute? How do I get to be part of the next piece of that story down the road? Whether it's a park, a special home, a monument, whatever it would be. Look into it and find out that interesting story that's there. You might be surprised at what you find. You might even find that there's a connection to your own personal history in some way.
My name is Janet Lowe Hartshorn, and the topic that I chose was the legacy, the cultural legacy of R.S. McLaughlin 100 years later. He was auto baron in the area, obviously the founder of General Motors of Canada. So he started the financial engine of Oshawa back in 1918. But above and beyond that, he was a giant of a philanthropist. In the early 1900s, RS bought the property on the northwest corner of Adelaide and Simcoe Street. He began building Parkwood. It's much more than just a mansion. It has been designated as a historical site. I was married in the sunroom at Parkwood. The south side of the house and the lighting in it is gorgeous. Dining room is set up with the table set for dinner. There's a breakfast room that's set much more informal than the dining room. Then there's a drawing room, and that room has a piano in it that came from Eaton's. He was very much into enjoying music, and they would have music nights within the home. We also went into the library and took some pictures of where he spent a lot of his time working for anything he was doing work-wise with General Motors. And the South Lawn is very famous for its X-Men movies that were shot there. There's a tea house in the back that is open daily in the summertime where you can actually go and enjoy the 1920s fountains and the gardens, and it's just an absolutely beautiful site. Camp Samac is a 150-acre parcel of land that RS gave to the Boy Scouts of Canada, which is Scouts Canada. They do scouting there from September to June, and then there's summer camps for kids in the area from June till September. The bandshell is located at Memorial Park in the heart of Oshawa. It was donated by R.S. McLaughlin back in 1942. He was a big part of the local regiment. He listened to the regiment band and decided there needed to be a location where they could actually play for the citizens of Oshawa, and so he erected the bandshell. It's a wonderful location and the acoustics are phenomenal. So it's, again, another hidden treasure. I'm very passionate about his legacy. I feel that this man not only started GM of Canada, but fueled the economy in this area, brought lots of citizens to Oshawa at one time 100 years ago. And he didn't just keep the money to himself, he shared the wealth, and he decided to leave these pieces to the citizens of Oshawa to enjoy. And I really feel that we owe it to him to spread the word and let people that come to the city that are new here or the next generation understand who he was and what he has left us.
My name is Andrew Chapados, and I chose the Oshawa Generals Minor Hockey League team in the Ontario Hockey League. Well, it's a high level of hockey. These are kids that get drafted into the NHL, so it's a big deal, especially in Canada, that we have such a high level of sport here. We've had a lot of successful athletes and people come from this team. Somebody like John Tavares, who played for the Oshawa Generals, I think he's played nearly a decade in the NHL, and coming back to Toronto, which is so close to us, is really kind of like him coming home. So it's really been able to bring a lot of focus back to the team because everyone sees how big of a star he is, and it really points the spotlight to our city. It shows, hey, it's a great place to play, and a lot of people enjoy coming here. When they turn on all the lights, it looks really good in there. You've got the banners, you've got the retired numbers, and you've got a lot of wall murals in the hallways, which the players will see when they're walking down the hallway towards the rink itself. So they probably get a really good feel of the history of the place while they're walking into the arena to skate every day. The Generals have one of the best arenas in the entire league they play in. It's one of the biggest, one of the newest. So it's really in the core of the city, and a lot of people use it for a lot of different events. A lot of country music, rock artists, even wrestling, comedy shows and stuff like that. Brings a lot of money into the economy for the people, and therefore makes the city a lot of money and makes the city better. I've gone there for events and you just see people you haven't seen for a long time, for whether it's for a concert or for a hockey game. So really there's a lot of energy in the building. It's also got the Oshawa Sports Hall of Fame there, where they're holding all this memorabilia for almost 100 years of sports history in the city. When you think of the Oshawa Generals, you think about Bobby Orr, because he's been attached as a face to the organization for a really long time, and for that matter, he's been attached to the city for a really long time. So his little memorial there he's got is pretty significant. So it's a good place for families to go before or after the game, or on the weekends, to really get in touch with the culture. I think it's important that we include the Generals because they have such a long history with the city. They're named after General Motors, which had their original headquarters in Oshawa. It's a good place for people to come, and it's exciting to have a team that's going to have, world-renowned people who might be playing in the NHL in the near future.
My name is Emily Murrows, and the topic I chose for our town is the Regent Theatre, located in downtown Oshawa. It's in the heart of the city, so and it's been there for 100 years. Kevin Arbour is the general manager currently at the Regent Theatre, and I wanted his perspective.
It was one of the original movie houses in Oshawa. It played movies right till 1989, and it was a movie theater, and it was also a vaudeville theater. So Fast forward to 2010, the university bought it as a lecture hall and a live concert venue. The front facade is slightly different, but otherwise it's the exact same building people remember.
The inside, they've refurbished it, but the ceiling is beautiful and different detailing and everything like that. They've made sure it's stayed as much as it could have been from 100 years. So when you walk in, it's almost like it's an updated version, but you're walking into a piece of history. I think it's something special when somebody's willing to be preserving that space. I think there's something to offer for every age group, especially with the different performances that are available each month. It's something from kids to adults. I got different footage of the movie night with the Hot Rod Cinemas, and they bring old cars in on the Tuesday nights and they park them in the street next to the theater, and people that are there can show their cars and then they go watch a car-themed movie. And then once a month they have the classic movies. It has the historical feel and it has more of a home and family environment than it would walking into a local Cineplex to go see a film now. It's definitely something to see, and you wouldn't know it by looking on the outside. It's one of those things you have to kind of go in and explore for yourself. And I work there, so I often have conversations with people who have come back. What they used to go there as a child and now are attending live events there. And there's just so many lovely stories. I think it's important for the community to have a place to go for the arts. I think live music and live theater is important. So having a space like that where people can run, small productions, I think it benefits it immensely for having an artistic location like that.
Hi, my name is Mary Jubran, and my topic was Teaching City. In 2017, the city of Oshawa decided to join the research that they wanted to conduct and the education that students were receiving here. And so they created Teaching City, which was a program that brings the research opportunities to the schools. And it has completely exploded since. There's over 30 research projects happening as we speak right now, with dozens more potentially to come down the line as well. And they have been achieving so many great things. There's a group at Ontario Tech University who are essentially creating a smart helmet for firefighters. I was able to see some of the data that the literal coding that they were doing, and I also saw the prototype for the helmet. This navigation system, it just scans the area around the firefighter and creates a digital map. Essentially, it maps out where there's rooms that they might have missed, where there's an exit, any sort of blocking, and that way it's supposed to help people get out safer. It is quite literally groundbreaking technology to be developing. This project in particular started as a capstone project from a group of students from Ontario Tech University here in Oshawa. It's phenomenal because it shows you what our students are capable of. I also followed another research project, which is a stormwater pond project. This project in particular is studying the effects of these stormwater ponds, how they're able to flourish on their own, and whether or not they are actually doing a service beyond just draining the city. In this case, it was just one student, and her name is Alex Johnson. She was collecting samples from one of the stormwater ponds. There's 15 that she looks at in total. It's incredibly important because this helps the future development of Oshawa. The Ace Wind Tunnel is an incredible establishment that is quite literally one of a kind.
So this is a over $100 million facility, and it has its anchor, so to speak, or its traction, is the world's most sophisticated climatic wind tunnel.
It's a place where we can recreate all different kinds of climates, like wind speeds. We could do snow, rain, whatever it might be. And we use that for testing, whether that's for automobile testing or drone testing or engineering testing. We also have our firefighters go in there to train, and they learn how to save lives in a situation where there's a massive blizzard or a massive storm. Industries from all over the world, quite literally worldwide, are always booking it. And it's part of Ontario Tech University. It blows my mind that it's one of a kind and it's here. And it's important for students to know that that capability is here, that it's viable as well, and that you are actually doing stuff that is making a difference and making a change.
My name is Jordan Cook, and I chose bike paths. The bike path really acts as an artery through the city and kind of pathway through history. They run 27 kilometers through the city. Every Friday, my friend and I and his dog walk the bike paths and walk up through downtown. And for us, it's a way of connecting with nature and really just a form of therapy almost. We start at the lake and then walk basically from the southernmost part all the way up to the north end of the city. The Waterfront Trail is a sort of a nationwide project to connect the waterfront around the Great Lake area. You've got the sounds of waves crashing, activity in the harbor. As you get into the path, you could almost forget you were in an urban environment. As you meander uptown into the city, you realize the history that's there. The creek provided power for early industry and jobs. The city really sprouted from Oshawa Creek, and the creek has provided power for mills for years and years. CLOCA is our local conservation authority, and the building that they use was actually the old tannery. So it was a tannery back in the 1800s. Joe Kolodzi Path. It was named after a local council member, and it was a way to commemorate the natural beauty of the area. So that section is named after him. We went to a restaurant called Edge of Oz. That's a place we like to stop. One of the neat features, I think, about the path is part of it runs through an old rail bed and through an old industrial part of Oshawa. So you get that mix of industrial past and the present, and there's a real beauty to that. One of my favorite features is at Albert Street Bridge, and it's an old wooden bridge. So as you're walking along the path, cars going over top have a really cool sound over the wooden bridge. There's so many things that jump right out at you when you talk about Oshawa, but I think the creek itself is really, it's overlooked. And it's my favorite feature of the city. And yeah, it's very therapeutic to walk the trails every Friday. I hope it encourages people to get out and enjoy wherever they are. Try and find the natural beauty wherever you live and enjoy it.
My name is Darlene Bonchek, and I chose to do a showcase the GENOSHA Hotel. The GENOSHA Hotel was built in 1929, and it's just the classiest hotel. GENOSHA is Oshawa and General Motors combined. There was a banquet halls, and there was quite a few different restaurants over the years. There was the Plowman, there was a Starlight Lounge, there was Rosie O'Grady's, there was Morgan's, there was quite a few places. There was Harry's Hideaway. My dad's name was Harry, so that was, I heard he went there, but it wasn't where you take a family. In the 1930s, all the GM executives would meet there. I've seen pictures of Colonel Sam McLaughlin and his brother and his family. Everybody went to the GENOSHA. There was a rumor that there was some connection with Camp Axe and spies staying in the hotel. Ian Fleming stayed there. The entrance to the hotel was on Bond Street, and then he went off to write James Bond's novels. I think that was kind of interesting. It was also rumored that King George and Queen Elizabeth, the Queen's mother, visited the hotel. I think the more you dig, the more you find. It's 90 years old now. It started to deteriorate. It was sitting empty for quite a few years. Quite a few people tried to do renovations, and they just kept falling through. But this time, it's going to be completed in September, and it's going to be 62 units, and I've been on the inside, and it's just beautiful in there. And it's nice to see something of history come back. I interviewed the owner, of course, because I wanted to hear his take on it.
There's a few features within the building that we tried to keep, and we're going to have a couple nods to the history. One of them being this winding staircase, and there's a couple other features, a grand staircase we're going to try and restore.
I started about a Facebook group 4 years ago, and it's been amazing. I've got people are posting memories and photos.
If you wanted to meet a fellow, you went to the coffee shop at the GENOSHA Hotel.
And they used to have all the big shindigs in the GENOSHA because it was the place, all the marble, all the brass.
The memories are what's important. And they're not going to change the name to another word. They're going to call it 70 King Street because they figure people will still call it the GENOSHA. Everybody will call it the GENOSHA.
My name is Karen Coyle, and I chose art around the city. We have the Oshawa Art Association, which was formed in 1967 by 2 local artists. Since then, they've grown to over 200 members. We have still life, abstract, portrait painting, like any type of art you can think of. The Oshawa Art Association has a general meeting every month at the Arts Resource Center, and at each meeting they have a different artist do a demonstration.
If you have a white canvas and you're coloring on it, the little white bits really jump out.
They also are responsible for just different events around town as well, to try and promote the local art. We had several artists this year at the Peony Festival. Then we have the Living Room Community Art Studio, which is a volunteer-based studio where anyone can come in and paint. The majority of their materials are donated by the community, and all skill levels of artists are welcome to come into there. Obviously there is public art in other cities, but I think we do have a lot. You could find them down an alleyway or on a doorway. Everywhere you look, pretty much, there is something. So many of the murals are based on historic events that have happened in Oshawa. Or you'll see murals on Winfield Farms, you'll see murals on General Motors, Robert McLaughlin. There are many establishments around town that do like to promote local art. For example, the Cork and Bean, they run a different artist every couple of months. Cork and Bean also includes live music as an art as well, so you can go in there and watch a musician and look at some beautiful art. Many of our local artists have their own studios or galleries that they run themselves. One of them is Sweet Art Studios, run by Marissa Sweet. Marissa is a wonderful artist, and she holds an open studio at her studio. The Embassy is a church that also holds their own kind of art show. Currently, the theme is peace, so all of the paintings have to somehow depict peace. And they hang them in the church for anyone to come and see. Paint night is a pretty popular thing lately. Basically, an artist will have already a painting complete, and then people sign up and they go and they learn how to recreate this painting. It's a lot of fun. Anybody can be included in these, and it's more a social, and you learn to paint, and then you end up with a beautiful painting at the end. I do remember one time someone telling me that the Oshawa Art Association was Oshawa's best kept secret. Not a lot of people are aware of the amount of public art we have around. They're not aware of the Robert McLaughlin Gallery or the Tim Packer Gallery. We have a lot of talent in Oshawa. More than I could actually show in this, but there is so much talent here, and I really feel that everyone needs to see that.
My name is John Arkelian. I worked with a videographer, a helper named Matthew McPhee, to look at the very rich diversity of performing arts in the city of Oshawa. Resound is a choir of about 40 to 50-ish people, men and women. It's an auditioned choir. We happened to film them performing in one of the city's heritage churches. In response to waking silence. They sang a really diverse repertoire and kind of uplifting music. There was one or two pieces which were composed by members of the choir, which was an interesting addition as well.
She knew she would have to be a certain way. She could be companionable and useful.
Durham storytellers. We had one representative member of their group do just some excerpts from a story written by Arthur Conan Doyle.
Mr. Rucastle was oddly impatient and seemed disinterested in what she had to say.
When I thought of the storytellers, I thought, what's the closest I can come to live theater, plays, without having a live theater or play available to me during the filming period? And storytelling was a reasonable facsimile thereof. It involves words and the communicating of those words with feeling and conviction and acting effectively to capture the audience and draw them in. Dinner Chats is, I like to think, perhaps unique in the country because it's a film festival, but instead of being concentrated as all other film festivals are that I know of in a few days, Dinner Chats is spread across the entire year. Why was she sort of, I don't know, judgmental or standoffish? There's a conversation after each and every film. I have the happy task of serving as the moderator of that exercise.
When Dale was being interviewed, I thought he did the interaction there was very good.
And it's secretly meant, don't tell anybody I said so, but it's secretly meant to be educational, gently educational, and to get people thinking about bigger issues.
Here we have for you Walt Disney's Scene that used the night in Bear Mountain.
The bands in all of Durham Region, including Oshawa, are very, very good. One of them is based right here in Oshawa, the Oshawa Civic Band. It's been around for a long, long time, many decades, and they're extremely good. On the night that we filmed them, they were hosting another band from the neighboring town of Whitby. The four groups that we covered, although they're really meant to be illustrations or examples of the bigger picture, which is so much bigger. I hope that what we did will give a good taste of what's available here. It's nice to know that right here in our own backyard, there are first-rate things to be found in music and in art and in theater and in film and so on. As far as I'm concerned, performing arts and culture and visual arts, those areas really are what adds value to life.
My name's Matthew Polito, and I chose the topic of Lakeview Park. It's in the southern part of town. It's on Lake Ontario, so it's just a place for relaxation and a leisure area for the people of Oshawa. They do host events like Canada Day is very popular at Lakeview Park. They'd have fireworks on the lake. There's usually Rib Fest and other events there. There's a stone in the park that reads that the park was donated by General Motors in 1920. So GM bought the land for the people of Oshawa. There's a port there where the ships come in. There's definitely people kayaking, some sailboats. It's mostly just open water, just really relaxing. There's a little park that families can take their kids to and whatnot. A lot of benches, gazebos, and then there's also a little restaurant. It's a lot of open space. So there is baseball diamonds where they play baseball, and there's also a couple soccer fields as well. Guy House, Henry House, and Robinson House are the only houses that are on the park. So they turned them into a museum. So Thomas Henry was from Ireland, and he moved over in the early 1800s, and he purchased a farm, which is now Lakeview Park. Yeah, in grade school, they actually brought us through those houses and just showed us some of the history of Oshawa and the park. Another attraction of the park is the bike path. It goes to many different cities along the lake, so people can, if they're from, say, Ajax or Pickering, which are nearby cities, they can bike to Oshawa along the lake and end up at Lakeview Park. There's a little cliff if you keep going up the bike path in Lakeview Park. And if you go to this cliff, you can actually view the park from sort of almost like a bird's eye view. It's a very tranquil and peaceful place, so there's always positivity and a lot of nice people there whenever you go.
My name is Rosemeire Isabel. I'm from Brazil, but I'm living in Oshawa right now. And I'm choosing Oshawa Center as a topic to talk about. Oshawa Center is one place that everybody knows in Oshawa. It's a shopping mall where you can find 250 stores there with different kind of stuffs, entertainment, and it's a good place for family, for shoppers, for everybody. They start as a small place in 1956, and now they grow up. In 2013, they expend around $200 million to renovate and expand everything. They start with 28 stores, and now they have 260 stores there. You can see big ones like Marshall's, H&M, Hudson's Bay, expensive ones as well. Also cheaper ones like Dollarama. You can find everything for everybody. And they have a really good food court there with 1,000 seats. I think Oshawa Center also is a good place to socialization. You can go with friends, with family, with people from your job there to sit, to have a conversation, to spend a little time and have a good time there. The Oshawa Center is the largest mall in the Durham region. So the cities around the Oshawa can come here as well to enjoy the place. They employ thousands and thousands of people. It is good for the economy here. I feel comfortable here because I don't have to go to Toronto to find stuffs. In the Oshawa Center, they give me everything that I want. I have food there, I have clothes there, I have everything that I need. It's an amazing place to go.
My name is Diane Stephen, and my topic is Winfield's Farm and Northern Dancer. Winfield's Farm was created when Colonel Sam McLaughlin sold his 450-acre Parkwood Stables farm. He sold his farm to Edward Plunkett Taylor, E.P. Taylor as he's really known. The farm eventually encompassed approximately 1,400 acres and became the Canadian thoroughbred racehorse breeding capital of the 20th century. Mr. Taylor owned Northern Dancer, who was born on Winfield's Farm in Barn 6. The only Canadian-born horse to win the Kentucky Derby. He was in 18 races. That was his whole career. He won 14 first place, 2 seconds, 2 thirds. Kentucky Derby first, Preakness first, Belmont he came in third, and the Queen's Plate he came in first. I asked 3 friends of mine to speak about these topics because they know much more than I ever will.
E.B. Taylor's goal, because he was told by many horsemen when he embarked that you cannot breed a champion racehorse in Canada due to the severe winter climates that we go through. E.B. Taylor proved them wrong.
He would put 2 horses into the ring at one time, and the highest bidder got to select which one they wanted.
Yes,
and Mr. Taylor is left with this little runt who only stood in his shoes about 1.5 or 15.5 inch at that time. And that was Northern Dancer.
To this day, the legacy of Northern Dancer is in 90% of all thoroughbreds, and more recently in 100% of those horses taking part in the Kentucky Derby, the Preakness, and the Belmont Stakes. A small portion of the former 1,400-acre Winfield's Farm is now owned by Ontario Tech now. We were able to get an Ontario Heritage designation for the Northern Dancer Cemetery.
You still feel that magic that is there when you walk past the barns and you walk past, the arena and the old stallion barn and Barn 6 where Northern Dancer was born. You just still feel that magic.
My name is Valerie Noonan, and I've been a volunteer at the Canadian Automotive Museum for 6 years, and the topic that I've chosen is cars and their connection to people.
Happy Father's Day!
Cars bring people together. Everyone can think of their first car they drove, their first date in the car, the drive-in movies, and even today, it's such a big, important part of our lives. People come in, and when they see these automobiles, it connects them back to those times that they remember. The Canadian Automotive Museum is the only professionally run automotive museum in Canada, and its mission is to preserve and share the Canadian automotive story. As a tour guide takes you through the museum, you will be introduced to automotive manufacturing in Regina, Saskatchewan, where the 1929 Chevrolet was built. We will be discussing Lady Eaton of the Eaton's department store because we have her 1912 Rolls-Royce there, the Ladybird as she called it. We'll be speaking about Jack Bickle, whose car is there, and the importance that he had with the Toronto Maple Leafs, as well as mining in Northern Ontario. The 1925 Brooks steamer is a perfect example of how there was different propulsion methods used 100 years ago. It wasn't all the internal combustion engine using gasoline. They actually used a steam engine. Kerosene was the heat source, and the steam from the water actually propelled the vehicle. But that also leads us to other propulsions. We have an electric vehicle. 100-year-old Roshan Lang, which is 100% electric. We have a Chevrolet 490. It was called 490 because it cost $490 at the time. And it was converted by a Canadian telephone company to service their telephone lines in the winter months. So what they did was put skis on the front, an extra axle in the back with the tracking, and voila, you had a snowmobile. There was a lot of partnerships between Canadian and American automobile manufacturers. Usually the Canadians were the coach builders and the Americans provided the more expensive powertrain, engine and transmissions. And so the Mackay is a perfect example of that. It's also a great example of the brass era. Once World War I came, brass was used for artillery shells, so it was never again used as abundantly. The 1965 Amphicar is a great example of a dual-purpose car. It was exactly as it suggests. Both can be driven on land, and it acted perfectly well as a boat. I really believe that you can't move forward until you know the past. When visitors come in, their blood pressure goes down, they're away from their devices, and they're transported back to a time that reminds them of the car that they grew up in or that their parents drove. And it really connects them to the past.
My name is Swapnil Markanda, and my topic was restaurants. When I came to Oshawa, I was like, this place has different cuisines, and this place has those restaurants which really make good food. So Rainbow Restaurant is around 50 years old. They have a pretty delicious menu, and food is fresh and it tastes good. Overall, it's a very warm place to sit and enjoy food. Plus, they have all those photographs of their history. Pretty well known, like it's a local family-owned business. Spicy Affair, another locally owned business. It's an Indian restaurant which have like really authentic Indian food. Me as a Indian, I recommend to everyone if they want to eat something, go there and have that delicious food. The chef is working for 20 years in this field. One of the dishes which I found very innovative was a mango chicken. They cook it in mango pulp. It's a sweet and sour taste, not that much spicy. You get that tangy flavor of mango and chicken. I would rather prefer to go to Spicy Affairs than any other restaurant in Oshawa. Oshawa Thai is another restaurant located in downtown. Overall, the quality of food is pretty good as compared to other places. I like it. Personally, after Indian food and Italian food, I love Thai food. Honestly, I'm a food-loving person, and I love different kind of food, different cuisines, and the best thing for me is like if I get different type of food and a tasty food, I'm good with my life.
My name is Tammy Gay, and the topic I chose was the Robert McLaughlin Gallery. It's mainly contemporary art that they collect.
Robert McLaughlin Gallery has a collection of over 4,600 artworks. Our claim to fame in this area is our collection of Painters 11 works. Painters 11 was an abstract collective group that was actually founded on the boundary of Whitby and Oshawa.
There are a few sculptures outside the gallery. There's one at the front of the gallery, which is 3 beaver on top of a rock. It's kind of an iconic sculpture around town. Everybody knows those beavers. The Douglas Copeland is physically attached to the front of the gallery. I believe he created that speaking to the Painters 11 connection that the gallery has. I think each one of those circles is bands of color that each one of those artists tend to use on a regular basis. There's also the Meadmore, which is the newest sculpture, which is across from the gallery beside City Hall. Thomas Bulkley was someone who collected historical images, photographs, and many of those images are Oshawa related, Durham region related. The gallery has taken over that collection, so they do a rotating display. They have an artist in residence program, and the artist currently in the lab is Alex Thompson, who is a printmaker. He is doing just some really amazing work.
Oh, this is a song that I really like because it's about, you guessed it, a relationship. So
they also do community engagement type events. I was able to speak with the gallery CEO.
RMG Fridays is a really exciting event. It's probably one of my favorite things about the work that we do here. People of all ages and ilks gather at the gallery to listen to music, see exhibition openings, do artwork down in the studios. The gallery is just full of people.
Oshawa is going through somewhat of a transition. We're making our way more towards knowledge-based and a creative-based economy here. With those RMG Fridays, they curate all of the creative community in Oshawa together in one place. So it's a good representation of that portion of our changing city.
My name is Stacy Snow, and I live in Oshawa, and I'm covering the topic of supporting one another in the community. Supporting one another in the community, to me, is the organizations and the volunteerism and community engagement that we see on a day-to-day basis. The Back Door Mission is a drop-in center for people with lived experience of homelessness or at risk of homelessness.
Country roads, take me home.
The Back Door Mission hosts a community barbecue every year. The whole place was filled. The Back Door Mission is more than a drop-in center. It is a place of comfort. It's a place where people can go to be there for one another. And I feel that this has naturally developed over the years, and I think it's a pinnacle of the community. The Living Room Community Art Studio is a place where people of all ages can kind of embrace their creativity. One woman who was painting had shared her story with me. She was living with a rare disease, and she was experiencing chronic pain and anxiety. And coming to the Living Room Studio gave her a place of comfort and a place to distract herself from her struggles. The Living Room Community Art Studio puts on a fundraiser. They had raffle prizes and art challenges and games with judges, and they were showcasing all of the art that people in the community made, and they could be purchased by other community members. It was quite fantastic to see so many people in that building supporting this part of the community, this facility. I visited 2 gardens, the Pepper Patch and Alexandra's Bounty. So We Grow Food is an organization that supports sustainability in the community, and they have, since 2014, they have maintained over 30 gardens in Oshawa. They are promoting food security, and they're promoting the awareness and education on growing food. I visited the Refuge Youth Outreach Center, and this is a place that helps homeless youth or youth who are at risk of homelessness. And it is a place not only to get meals, it is a place for counseling, for comfort, for activities. Feed the Need is a distribution warehouse, an organization, and they provide every year 1.2 million pounds of food. And this is distributed to 62 member agencies. The Resound Choir is a choir made of local artists in Oshawa. So they decided to cover issue of homelessness for this event, and they wanted to promote it to local agencies in Oshawa and to talk about the issues on homelessness. They showed a film of the people who were from the Backdoor Mission, and then the second part, they showed the film of the people from the Refuge Youth Outreach Center. We could kind of become aware of these agencies and all the good work that they're doing while we're listening to this amazing choir sing. I felt like I needed to show the resilience and the way that people are there for each other. That's what you can feel when you're there. When you show up and you get to talk to people who want to share their story with you, you really do feel that sense of togetherness. And I wanted to capture that on film and to show everyone that there are such positive and beautiful things and profound things that are happening in this community.
I'm Brandon Pickard, and I chose the topic of events in spring and summer. There's so much activity happening within the city of Oshawa, and I wanted to get out and try and capture a bit of the cultural diversity through the events that we have. The Ontario Regiment RCAC Museum is really a gem within the city of Oshawa. It really brings history to life. It is home to the largest collection of operational military vehicles within Canada. This event that I was able to get to was the Aquino Tank Weekend, and they were actually celebrating the 75th anniversary of the battle at Aquino. So there was reenactments of that battle, of the Gulf War, and really just a unique opportunity to get up and close to military vehicles, military personnel, and a great way to share our Canadian story. It gave me some chills, just kind of seeing the reenactments and understanding that is the reality for a lot of men and women who have served in our country. A really great job that the museum and all of the volunteers and people kind of contributing to the event to bring history to life and share it with everyone that was there that weekend. Fiesta Week is a week-long celebration. It kicks off with a parade. It's a celebration of multiculturalism. It's a week-long festival at 13 pavilions where there's food and culture and dancing and song. This year was actually the 45th anniversary of Fiesta Week, so it's a long-standing tradition within the community. People look forward to it every year. Made it to the French-Canadian Pavilion and tried the tortilla pie, and the custard tarts from the Portuguese club were just dynamite, and schnitzel on a bun from the German club. I love food from around the world, and I think that's probably why I love Fiesta Week, is that you can go and experience those flavors and also have it paired with the cultural happenings, with the song and dance and the colors and steel drums at the Caribbean Pavilion, and it's just a unique way to bring community together. I think it's a really great way to tell the story of Oshawa and celebrating the different nationalities that make our community, and a unique way to go out and taste different flavors from around the world and celebrate in song and dance and have a really great time. The Peony Festival it's a beautiful display and certainly celebrates spring being in bloom in Oshawa. This year we celebrated the 15th anniversary of Peony Festival, and it's held at the Oshawa Valley Botanical Gardens, and it's just a tremendous event that features over 360 varieties of peonies. A beautiful display as you walk about the garden, and it brings in people from all over the world. It's quite gorgeous. If you've gardened, whether it be flowers or vegetables, you know the care and attention that goes into it, and you certainly see that through the beauty that's on display and obviously the work that the staff and volunteers put into it every single year. I didn't want to just choose one singular event. I thought, let's try and get out to as many as possible and really tell the story of why this community is so vibrant, really a nod to the residents and city staff and community partners across the board that just come together to make Oshawa a great place to live and celebrate community throughout all of these celebrations.
Our Town Oshawa is funded in part by Unifor. Unifor, a union for everyone. With additional support from the City of Oshawa. Prepare to be amazed. Ontario Power Generation. The Regional Municipality of Durham. And contributing sponsors, Ontario Tech University and Trent University Durham GTA. Challenge the way you think. And by the members of WNED TV. Thank you.